Welcome to my channel, Rise Up with Steve. Please hit like, subscribe, and don't forget to share with your friends. Emotionally mature women reach a point in life where they no longer waste their energy trying to explain themselves to people who are committed to misunderstanding them. They learn that not every battle deserves their voice, and not every argument deserves their time. Silence, for them, is not weakness, it's wisdom. When a woman matures emotionally, she realizes that arguing doesn't change character, and loud words don't fix broken values. A mature woman watches how people act when they think no one is paying attention. She listens carefully, not just to what is said, but to what is avoided. She understands that actions reveal truth faster than arguments ever will. While others are busy defending themselves, she is busy collecting information. Observation becomes her protection, and patience becomes her power. She no longer reacts emotionally to disrespect. Instead, she pauses. That pause is dangerous, because in that moment she is deciding whether someone deserves continued access to her life. Emotionally mature women don't need to raise their voice to prove a point. They let consistency expose everything. They know that if someone truly values them, it will show without debate. Arguing drains energy, but observing builds clarity. A mature woman understands that peace is more valuable than being right. She chooses calm over chaos, self-respect over temporary validation. When she stops arguing, it's not because she has nothing to say, it's because she has finally learned who is worth talking to. And here's the truth: when an emotionally mature woman goes quiet, pay attention. She's not confused anymore. She's not emotional anymore. She's aware. And awareness always comes right before a decision. An emotionally mature woman understands something very few people ever truly grasp: peace is more valuable than being right. She knows that life is too short, too precious to waste on arguments that don't lead anywhere. She's lived long enough to see that people who are determined to fight, to prove a point, to push their opinions rarely change. And she's learned that the energy it takes to argue often leaves her drained, frustrated, and unhappy. So she stops. She chooses peace instead. Choosing peace does not mean she's weak or that she's giving in. It means she values her own mental and emotional space more than temporary satisfaction. It means she has finally understood that her worth does not depend on convincing someone else or having the last word. When she encounters someone who is combative or critical, she doesn't feel the need to jump in, to argue, or to defend herself. Instead, she pauses, breathes, and looks at the situation objectively. She understands that some people are too caught up in their own emotions to see the truth, and some people will never truly acknowledge her perspective, no matter how perfectly she explains it. She values her calm over their chaos, knowing that engaging in a fight will only drag her down into negativity. By stepping back, she preserves her energy and her peace of mind. This doesn't happen overnight. She's had moments in her life where she wanted to shout, to scream, to defend herself against every slight, every misunderstanding, every unfair comment. But over time, she has realized that those moments of intensity rarely change outcomes. They only create more noise, more tension, and more regret. She has learned to rise above the instinct to argue, to resist the temptation to prove herself to people who are too focused on their own agendas. She's watched others waste hours, days, sometimes years in pointless conflicts, and she has decided that she is too smart to do the same. Choosing peace also means she sets boundaries. She knows that peace isn't just about avoiding arguments, it's about protecting herself from unnecessary negativity. She avoids people who thrive on conflict, and she doesn't let the opinions of those who cannot understand her shake her. She values her energy, and she understands that it's not her job to fix everyone else's perspective. She knows when to speak and when to remain silent, and that balance is what allows her to maintain a sense of inner calm. Moreover, she realizes that prioritizing peace gives her clarity. When she stops arguing and stops getting caught up in the need to prove herself, she sees situations more clearly. She can observe without distraction. She can assess who truly respects her, who is genuine, and who is worth her time. Arguments often cloud judgment, but peace allows for perspective. She understands that her time and energy are precious, and she chooses to invest them in things and people that actually matter. Above all, she knows that choosing peace is a reflection of her maturity. It shows that she has grown beyond the need for validation through conflict. She has learned that life is richer, calmer, and more fulfilling when she focuses on what truly matters instead of wasting time in battles that never lead anywhere. She values peace not just for herself, but for the environment she creates around her. Her calm presence influences others, showing them that strength is not always loud and wisdom does not always need to argue. In a world that constantly encourages confrontation, an emotionally mature woman stands out because she has mastered the art of choosing peace over winning. She understands that when she stays calm, she maintains control over her life, her emotions, and her happiness, and that is a victory far greater than any argument could ever provide. Silence is one of the most powerful tools an emotionally mature woman can have, yet so many people mistake it for weakness. They see a woman who doesn't argue, who doesn't shout, who doesn't constantly explain herself, and they assume she's passive or timid, but nothing could be further from the truth. Silence, for a mature woman, is a deliberate choice. It's a strategy. It's the art of understanding that not every situation demands a response. Not every opinion requires validation, and not every confrontation deserves her energy. She has learned that words can be wasted, and once they are spoken, they cannot be taken back. So she chooses carefully when, how, and to whom she speaks. A silent woman is never quiet because she is unaware. She is quiet because she is observant. She listens when others are talking, not just to the words, but to the intentions, the tone, and the emotions behind them. She watches behavior, studies patterns, and notices inconsistencies. While some people are busy trying to force their point across, she is busy gathering information, understanding the situation, and deciding on the best course of action. Her silence gives her the advantage that arguing never could: perspective. She knows that reacting impulsively often clouds judgment, while staying silent allows her to see clearly. Silence also protects her energy. Arguments, debates, and endless explanations drain even the strongest person, and she refuses to waste herself on people who are determined to misunderstand or oppose her. She understands that there are some battles she simply cannot win, not because she is wrong, but because some people will never see the truth. Engaging in these conflicts is pointless. Instead, she preserves her calm, holds on to her dignity, and waits for moments that truly deserve her voice. Her silence is her shield. It keeps negativity at a distance and prevents unnecessary drama from entering her life. Furthermore, silence can be a powerful message in itself. When a woman refuses to argue and she doesn't respond to provocation, it communicates far more than words ever could. It tells the world that she is confident, that she is unshakable, and that she does not need validation to know her worth. People notice it, even if they don't immediately understand it. There is a quiet strength in not reacting to every insult or criticism. Her silence forces others to reflect on their own actions, to confront their own behavior, and sometimes to realize their mistakes without having to say a single word. Emotionally mature women also understand timing. Silence is not just about holding back. It's about waiting for the right moment to speak, if speaking is even necessary. They know that sometimes words are better delivered after thought and consideration rather than in the heat of the moment. Strategic silence allows her to maintain control, to navigate tense situations with grace, and to make decisions with clarity rather than emotion. It shows patience, wisdom, and emotional intelligence. Choosing silence requires confidence. It requires self-respect and an understanding that not every conflict deserves her involvement. A mature woman knows that her voice is valuable and she uses it wisely. She also knows that silence can prevent regret, misunderstandings, and unnecessary tension. While the world often praises those who argue loudly, she understands that quiet power is more enduring. Her peace, her dignity, and her calm are far more valuable than winning any temporary debate. In a world that often equates speaking out with strength, she demonstrates a different kind of power, one that comes from restraint, observation, and inner confidence. Her silence is deliberate, her strategy intentional, and her strength undeniable. She proves every day that choosing not to argue is not surrender, it is mastery. and mastery of oneself is the ultimate form of power. An emotionally mature woman understands that words can lie, but actions rarely do. She has learned through experience that people often say what they think she wants to hear, or what makes them look good, or what shields them from confrontation. But when she pays attention, when she observes closely, the truth always reveals itself. She doesn't need constant affirmation or verbal promises to understand someone's character. She watches, she notices, and she evaluates the way someone behaves when they think no one is looking, the consistency of their actions over time, and how they treat people who cannot benefit them. These are the real markers of character. Observation allows her to see beyond the facade that many people present to the world. She watches carefully how others respond to stress, how they handle disappointment, and how they interact with those who are vulnerable. While some may speak sweet words or make grand gestures, it is the small, quiet moments that often reveal the truth. She notices the tone in their voice, the hesitation in their promises, the actions that contradict their words. Observation becomes her most powerful tool because it allows her to gather the facts before she reacts. She doesn't rush to judgment or allow herself to be swayed by charm, flattery, or empty words. Instead, she waits, she studies, and she evaluates the evidence carefully. Through observation, she understands that people are complex and layered, and that initial impressions are often misleading. She doesn't assume that someone is trustworthy just because they say the right thing. She pays attention to patterns, the repetition of behavior over time. Trust is earned, not given, and she is unwilling to give it away blindly. She realizes that when someone is truly genuine, their actions and words align consistently. When someone is manipulative or dishonest, there are subtle cues that become impossible to ignore once you are watching carefully. Observation sharpens her instincts and protects her from unnecessary heartbreak or disappointment. She also observes herself. An emotionally mature woman knows that self-reflection is just as important as watching others. She evaluates her reactions, her emotions, and her decisions. She notices when she is being influenced by pride, impatience, or fear, and she corrects herself before it leads to mistakes. Observation is not just about knowing others, it is about understanding the environment, the dynamics at play, and her own position within it. This self-awareness combined with keen observation allows her to act from a place of clarity and confidence rather than impulse. By observing quietly, she gains insight that argument and confrontation often cannot provide. While others are busy speaking, defending, or accusing, she is quietly gathering knowledge. She sees what is consistent and what is not, who is reliable and who is not, who deserves her time and who does not. Observation gives her control, not through force or aggression, but through understanding. It is a form of power that is subtle yet unshakable. A power that allows her to make informed decisions and to navigate life without unnecessary conflict. She understands that words can be deceiving and appearances can be misleading, but patterns and actions are rarely false. She trusts her ability to read situations, to recognize motives, and to discern truth from illusion. People may underestimate her quiet attention, but she knows that observation is a weapon far more effective than any argument or confrontation. It allows her to protect herself, to maintain her dignity, and to ensure that she surrounds herself with people who are authentic, honest, and deserving of her time. Through observation, she builds a shield of wisdom. She learns to respond, not react. She learns to recognize who is genuine, who is toxic, and who is indifferent. Observation becomes her guiding light, showing her when to engage and when to walk away. In a world where everyone is talking, an emotionally mature woman knows the value of watching, listening, and understanding. She knows that silence paired with observation always reveals the truth. And the truth is far more valuable than any argument she could ever win. An emotionally mature woman has learned the hard way that reacting emotionally rarely solves anything. She has seen how anger, frustration, and impulsive words can escalate a situation instead of calming it, and she refuses to fall into that trap. Instead, she responds with wisdom. She understands that wisdom is not just knowledge, it is knowing when to speak, how to speak and what to leave unsaid. It is the ability to act from clarity, not from chaos. While many people allow their emotions to dictate their responses, she has mastered the art of controlling her reactions, of choosing thoughtfulness over impulse, and of speaking with purpose rather than simply to release frustration. Responding with wisdom means she doesn't allow others to bait her. She knows that some people thrive on provoking emotional reactions, and she refuses to give them that satisfaction. She has learned that anger often clouds judgment, and that when emotions run high, decisions are rarely rational. By stepping back, breathing, and thinking through her response, she maintains control of the situation and protects her own peace. She has learned to wait, to assess, and to choose the most effective approach, even if that means saying nothing at all. Silence is sometimes her most powerful response, but when she does speak, her words carry weight because they are measured and intentional. She also understands that responding with wisdom requires empathy and perspective. She observes the motivations and feelings of others, trying to understand where they are coming from before reacting. This doesn't mean she allows herself to be manipulated or disrespected, but it does mean that she acts with insight. She knows that people often act out of their own pain, fear, or insecurity, and that recognizing this can prevent unnecessary conflict. By responding thoughtfully, she not only maintains her dignity, but also often diffuses tension that might have otherwise escalated into an argument. An emotionally mature woman has learned the value of timing. She knows that some situations require immediate action, while others require patience. She doesn't rush to respond just to prove a point or to defend herself. She takes her time, evaluates the situation, and then chooses the response that aligns with her long-term goals and values. This measured approach ensures that her reactions are effective rather than damaging. Her wisdom allows her to turn potentially negative situations into opportunities for clarity, resolution, or growth. Moreover, she knows that responding emotionally can have consequences she cannot control. Words spoken in anger or frustration can be remembered forever. Actions taken impulsively can create regrets that linger. By responding with wisdom, she minimizes harm, protects her relationships, and maintains her reputation. People begin to notice the difference between her and others. They see that she doesn't overreact, that she doesn't engage in petty arguments, and that she handles conflict with poise. Her calm and thoughtful responses become a source of respect, and her measured approach often inspires others to mirror her behavior. She also recognizes that wisdom in response is a form of self-respect. By choosing her reactions carefully, she demonstrates that she values herself more than the fleeting satisfaction of winning an argument or venting her emotions. Her self-control and discernment show that she has matured beyond the need to constantly prove herself to others. She understands that strength is not loud or aggressive. It is quiet, composed, and deliberate. Ultimately, responding with wisdom rather than emotion allows her to maintain power in every situation. While others may be trapped by their feelings, she operates from a place of control, strategy, and intelligence. She knows that life will always present challenges, conflicts, and moments of tension, but her ability to respond with wisdom ensures that she navigates these moments with dignity, clarity, and inner peace. She proves every day that maturity is measured not by how loudly one reacts, but by how thoughtfully one responds. And this is the hallmark of her strength, her growth, and her unmatched resilience. An emotionally mature woman knows that arguing is often a waste of time, but she didn't always know this. There was a time when she felt the need to fight for every point, defend every opinion, and make sure everyone understood her perspective. She would engage in endless debates, trying to prove her worth through words, through logic, through sheer persistence. But over time, she discovered a truth that changed everything. Arguing stops when self-respect begins. The moment she recognized her own value, she realized she no longer needed validation from anyone else. She understood that defending herself to people who were unwilling to listen only drained her energy and diminished her peace of mind. Self-respect teaches her that she does not owe anyone an explanation for who she is, what she believes, or how she chooses to live her life. When a person criticizes her unfairly or challenges her unnecessarily, she no longer feels compelled to respond. Her silence is not weakness, it is confidence. She knows that her worth is inherent, not dependent on convincing others, and that realization is liberating. Arguments are no longer a measure of strength, but a test of patience, and she has learned to preserve both. She has also learned that arguing with people who cannot see her perspective is pointless. No matter how much evidence she provides, how clearly she explains herself, or how passionately she presents her case, some people will always remain blind to the truth. She has watched it happen countless times. Individuals who twist words, refuse to listen, or manipulate situations to make her appear wrong. Instead of wasting herself on these battles, she chooses to protect her dignity and maintain her self-respect. She understands that her energy is valuable, and she will not squander it proving her worth to someone unwilling to recognize it. Self-respect also allows her to recognize her boundaries. She no longer tolerates disrespect, manipulation, or mistreatment. She knows that walking away from an argument does not mean defeat. It means she values herself enough not to be dragged into negativity. By setting clear boundaries, she ensures that her interactions are meaningful, respectful, and balanced. She has discovered that maintaining her integrity and composure is far more important than winning any debate. Her silence becomes a shield, protecting her from those who seek to diminish her, while her self-respect becomes a source of power that no one can take away. She understands that arguing often stems from ego, fear, or insecurity both in herself and in others. When she steps back, she sees the motivations behind the conflict clearly. She doesn't need to escalate situations or defend her reputation to those who are driven by pride or misunderstanding. Instead, she chooses calm, wisdom, and strategic responses, knowing that self-respect eliminates the need for validation through confrontation. She speaks when necessary, acts when needed, but never sacrifices her inner peace for the temporary satisfaction of proving someone wrong. Over time, she has realized that self-respect transforms her interactions with others. People begin to treat her differently, not because she is loud, forceful, or argumentative, but because she has established her boundaries and refuses to compromise her dignity. She becomes a force that commands respect effortlessly, simply by being grounded, confident, and aware of her own worth. She has learned that arguing rarely earns respect, but self-respect always does. Ultimately, arguing stops when self-respect begins, because a mature woman knows that her life is not meant to revolve around other people's approval. She values her peace, her energy, and her integrity far more than she values winning pointless debates. When she walks away from conflict, she walks into freedom. She demonstrates every day that the strongest people are not the loudest in the room, but the ones who know their worth and refuse to compromise it. She proves that self-respect is the foundation of true strength, and that when it is fully embraced, arguments simply become unnecessary noise in a life built on wisdom, dignity, and inner power.